Growing up in rural Africa, the closest I came to technology was a crackling radio that sputtered out news from a distant world. The idea of learning tech, as they called it in the city, was as alien as a spaceship. My family, struggling to put food on the table, couldn't afford the luxury of a laptop, let alone the internet that only existed in urban dreams. The culture of my village has been challenging for other reasons too. You're different, Joan. My best friend in that grade tells me. That is why we are friends. She is more than just a companion. We share a connection that feels deeper. When her parents divorce and she moves away, the pain of her departure reveals the depths of feeling I have yet to fully understand. I don't have words for it yet, but she is my first love. In high school, I attend an all-girls boarding school. I am confused by feelings that I hide for fear of rejection. During my second year, I learned a new word, lesbianism. This is what I am accused of by my school and the reason for my 2 week suspension. Searching for information on lesbianism online gives me access to a world I haven't experienced. I find shows portraying queer and bisexual characters who are unabashedly themselves. I am curious about the fluidity of love and attraction portrayed in the Vampire Diaries, and I adore Freya Michelson in the originals who is bisexual and shamelessly herself. Watching these characters navigate their identities in a world that frequently rejects them gives me hope for the possibility of my own acceptance. But in my life, which is nothing like these programs, I need to spare my parents the shame I'm feeling. Instead of grappling with the reality of who I am and telling them the truth about my suspension, I concoct a tale of missed assignments. But it doesn't work and the secret unravels. When my mother learns the truth, her face is a study of confusion, hurt, and love that I fear I might lose. Joanne, what have you done? This is not how we raised you. Do you know what people will say? What will our community think? Mom, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just being myself. Is that so terrible? Being yourself in this way, this, this, lesbianism, do you even understand what that means? It doesn't change who I am. Love is love. No matter what form it takes, I don't want to betray who I am. My father, who is more open-minded than my mother, tries to help her understand, but it doesn't work. My mother says, our traditions, Joanne, are there for a reason, to guide us and keep us in the right path. How will you ever get married? What about the dowry? The expectations? Lying in bed that night, I reflect on the traditions that have supported my development, traditions like our close-knit family reunions, storytelling, and the communal support that has helped build me into a strong person. I also think about the traditions that bring me sorrow, the pressure of marrying young, the expectations of the dowry that the bride's family receives. I am caught between loving and respecting my family and living my truth. At the end of my suspension, my mother brings me back to school to face the disciplinary committee. The issue has been discussed in my absence, and now I have to apologize to the committee. My mother also apologizes and pleads with the school to take me back. For the remaining 2 years, I keep my head down and focus on my studies, pushing my identity to the far corners of my mind. In college, I finally have the freedom to be myself. I live off campus with a roommate who is aware of my identity. I make friends and we occasionally go out to bars together, both gender specific and regular ones. Then in 2020, the pandemic shuts everything down, and I'm back at home under my mother's surveillance, pretending to be someone I'm not. With so much free time on my hands, I decide to teach myself coding by watching YouTube clips. It's during this time that my passion for tech is born. My community, steeped in tradition, sees this lack of access to technology as fate, not injustice. Tech is for rich kids, they say. Learn something practical like farming or languages. But a spark has ignited within me, fueled by the stories I hear on the radio. Tales of inventors, coders, and visionaries who are changing the world with lines of code. I knew deep down that this world held the key to unlock a future beyond the limitations of my village. But it's not just about me. It's about countless others like me yearning to break free from the shackles of circumstance. My journey isn't easy. I spend hours hunched over shared computers in the village library, their slow hum of symphony to my ears. I borrowed textbooks, devoured online articles on cracked phones, and bartered internet access for odd jobs in the city. I won't let others' limited vision define mine. One night under a sky ablaze with stars, I managed to code my first simple program. It isn't much, just a text that says, "Hello world." But it feels like a victory cry echoing across the vastness of the universe. In that moment, I understand that freedom isn't just about physical mobility, it's about breaking the chains of expectation, defying the limitations imposed by circumstance. In 2021, I complete my final year in college, but it is my father's declining health that marks this year. Before he got sick, he promised to speak to my mother to help her reach an understanding of my identity. My father is on my side, but fate is not. Shortly after his surgery, my father passes away. I feel so much grief at his loss. The following year is painful as my mother and I try to recover from his death. Each time I think of bringing up the discussion about my identity, I feel that I'm being a bad and selfish daughter, thinking only about myself and not the pain that my mother is going through. I have had several internships since graduating. Some have been difficult to get and even more difficult to enjoy because the culture is not as at all welcoming or inclusive. Technology is a field dominated by men and is not very welcoming to women, especially women who are not available as sexual partners. Finding a job feels like an endless uphill battle against invisibility and prejudice. In every interview, I face subtle and overt biases, ranging from questions about my talents and experiences to a lack of genuine interest in my qualifications. Once I got called in an interview for a junior design role. Halfway through the interview, when I acknowledged my involvement in the Cyton lending app front-end design and creation, one interviewer asks, "Are you certain you handled most of this on your own? It appears quite advanced." Another says, "Front-end is primarily design, right? Did you get support from or with the technical aspects?" His condensation is evident. These interviewers, three men and one woman, seem more concerned with looking for defects than acknowledging my abilities. Even the one woman who I hope would at least encourage and support me just sits there saying nothing. But I also have experienced places where I'm appreciated for my abilities and respected for who I am. Working as an intern at the United Nations, I have a pinch me if this is a real moment during Pride Month when they host a meeting for all employees who identified with the LGBTQ community. There are refreshments served and plenty of uplifting talks. Most importantly, it is a space for us to be ourselves. I feel like I have stepped into an alternate reality, one that I have believed is possible but only experienced online. A reality where being a lesbian is just one life choice away among many. And now that reality is mine. I start teaching young people in the village using discarded electronics and salvaged internet access. Slowly, a ripple of change begins. Young minds who were once told their dreams were impossible can start to see a future beyond the horizon. I don't want to be a single person who defied the odds. I want to be someone's I don't want to be a single person who defied the odds. I want to be someone who fights for a world where access to knowledge and opportunity isn't a privilege but a right. My story is a reminder that freedom isn't just a destination, it's a journey we pave with every step we take, every barrier we break, and every voice we raise in defiance. It's a fight that continues, a fight I'm determined to win, not just for myself, but for every child in every village who dreams of a world where they are safe to be their authentic self and their potential knows no bound.